Hi, my name is Dana Kletke, and I'm the co-executive director of Mentoring Artists for Women's Art in Winnipeg, Manitoba. I'm also a visual artist, and I work in drawing and mixed media. I'm located in Treaty 1 territory on the original lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and on the homeland of the Métis Nation. We respect the treaties that were made on these territories. We acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past and the present, and we dedicate ourselves to move forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. I am here today with Cyndi Wiebe. I'm excited to talk to you about your work in the exhibition Space for Adventure. Could you talk a little bit about your background and how you came to be an artist?
For sure. My name is Cyndi Wiebe. I am an artist, illustrator, graphic designer. I was raised in rural Manitoba, like up north of Dauphin. And so I saw a lot of the creativity modeled by my dad in the way that he would fix machines and make things work. And so all of that creativity and problem solving modeled by him. And then my mom was actually an artist as well. So she gave me the tools and the encouragement to pursue art. So I did art through high school, the advertising art program in my high school. And then I went on to graphic design at Red River College. And so I have been working in graphic design since then. And as I became a mom and alongside raising my kids, I taught art lessons and explored art. And so now that my kids are getting older, I have a bit more time to invest in my artistic craft. And so that's where I am now. The exhibition, Molly in Space for Adventure, was actually based on one story I wrote almost 20 years ago. And so through the mentorship that we're in, it actually has given Molly a space to come out and be developed into a program. So it's very exciting into this. Yeah.
I was a little bit curious to know if there was text that goes along with the paintings, or is it just a visual journey where the artist, or the audience, I should say, has to bring their own narrative to the work?
Yeah, I'm actually enjoying that part of this project because I've illustrated for other people before. I've never taken the time to really illustrate for myself and put this much into my own project. And so as an illustrator, I thought, well, I need a story to illustrate, and where do you get a story? So over Christmas, I wrote a story with the encouragement of my mentorship group. And so I was bouncing ideas off of them. And so, yeah, there is an entire story. And within the context of this group, I'm actually like the support that we've been given, and that I'm actually self-publishing the book right now. So alongside the exhibition that's happening, I am self-publishing the book and getting that out, and it should be out by September. But the thing that I love about this exhibition is that it gives people like the space to explore the story on their own and read into it what they see.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's fantastic, though, that it has another life beyond the gallery, and it will go into the hands of children and families. And will this be your first publication then of this kind, or it?
A first of my own, written and illustrated. So yeah, my kids are on every page of this book in different ways. And so like, as I've done, they're 12, 14, and 16 now. So pictures of them from when they were little are in the little nuances and in the poses. And the story is inspired by my daughter not being able to keep her covers on and her favorite stuffed cow. So it's just steeped in their childhood and their present and the way we tell stories together. So it's been a really fun process even to do with my kids.
I was wondering how you tapped into your inner child to create this work, or where the inspiration came from, because it is very whimsical and that's great to know that it's your children are inspiring you, but you probably also have that creative playfulness in you.
Yeah.
In the work of storytelling, like, what is it that draws you into specifically this art form?
even in the, I do live paintings at events as well. And even in that, storytelling is a part of it. Like I love involving people in the narrative, and like with the exhibition where there are no words, I'm not telling people what to see. So they're going to fill that in. And when I'm live painting, people will come to me after and they're like, oh, I loved when this happened, but I wasn't expecting this. And I thought you wrecked it, but then you didn't. And so, and then people are always drawing to things in their own life and their own experience and just becoming a part of it. So I feel like it's much more immersive that way. And so people can really get involved. So with Molly, like with the stories, the way the pictures go through, you're kind of wondering and getting involved in that storytelling process. So yeah, like, and again, with my kids, like we've always, every trip to go do groceries or something, we're being chased by elephant ninjas that are shooting us with bubblegum guns, and it's like there's always been all of these stories and stuff. So this was a way to kind of just put it on a page.
Wow, that's fantastic. And what a wonderful world to live in, where it's always some other creature,
Yeah.
going along with you. That's amazing. So I wanted to talk a little bit about your materials or your painting itself, because they're very, even though they're illustrative, they're also very painterly. Like you really move the paint around. There's a lot of texture on the surface. And I'm wondering if you could talk about your process a little bit.
Sure. So all of my illustrations start with just pencil sketches. I clean those up. I go to an ink and I get a nice clean image. And then I transfer that to my watercolor paper, and I actually photograph it at the line work stage too, so my designer self is happy with nice clean line drawings. And then because it's within the context of a book, I want promotional material so I can create coloring pages from those things and vector artwork, so that I'm keeping my options open all the way along the creative process. So once it's on the watercolor paper with some nice clean lines, then I use Frisket. So you'll see in the illustrations, particularly the space ones, there's the white swirls. And so that's done with like a Frisket resist to keep those parts nice and bright as I built up. So because I really wanted the color palette of the book to move from warm when she's at home, and then it kind of goes green when she's transitioning, and then it's very blue and purple in space, and then it goes green as she's coming back home, and it goes back to the yellow. So the colors are telling the story of where she is and kind of what's reality and what's dream. And you'll have to see the book to see the 2-page spread, because it kind of pulls it all together.
Nice.
Yeah. But yeah, so Frisket, and then I do wet on wet for the paint, so that I really like the water to kind of move the colors around, so it has an organic quality to it as well. And then sometimes some of the illustrations, I even use a white pen over top to just kind of bring some extra details out on there. And yeah, then I get the Frisket off and I add some kind of glowy yellows into the space scenes, so that it has those warm in the cool colors as well.
That's very interesting. I'm not a painter, so
Okay.
yeah.
Well, in the book, because it was designed as a publication, I have a dummy. I actually have it right here. A dummy of the whole book that I made, so that I could see where text is going to go within the pages. And so all of the pages were painted with the idea of where the text is going to be, so that I wanted everything to be very organic. So there wasn't like blocks of text or things. So it was all designed as a whole thing. So I've enjoyed controlling everything start to finish on my baby.
Well, and that's a lot of thinking in advance.
Yeah.
And planning in advance.
Yeah.
For sure. When you're talking about the paint, I also noticed within each of the images, there's a lot of movement, like within the swirling, and I'm wondering, what does that movement mean to you, or why is that important to you?
If you saw the pictures that inspire the book from my kids, like I've always loved that movement and just how they're just continuous motion machines. And so I really wanted that to be conveyed in the pictures. So like some of the poses, the kids are on swings, so they're flipping upside down, or they're lying on beds, so the gravity isn't always involved. And so I really wanted that like free flowing, just like wild feeling of movement to come through.
Well, I think very successfully. Yeah.
Awesome.
Um, let me just see. My other question was, because there's different perspectives in each of the works, do you do a lot of preliminary sketches? You talked about a sketch on the to
Mhm.
start, but do you do a lot of pre-sketching and work before you even get to that point where you're transferring it to the
Um,
watercolor paper?
I work pretty quick. um, that so there's a few of them that I worked more. Like at one point, I think she had like 5 or 6 arms on her and 5 or 6 legs. And I was like, do I want these ones or these ones? And just kind of figuring it out. And a lot of that has to do with the flow I wanted on the page with the type, because I wanted it to be an organic thing. So yeah, like generally I have an idea of what I want her facial characteristics to be. And then the cow as well, like they're kind of playing, and their relationship kind of develops throughout the book, where the cow gets a little more insistent and nervous as they go further into space and makes her come back home. But yeah, so there were certain spots where I'm like, oh, maybe that was a little too much anxiety or something in the face. And when you're doing illustrations, like just one line can carry so much weight. Like an eyebrow line here versus here is like calm versus very worried. So yeah, little things like that. So they're little tweaks, but pretty much I just get it down and polish it up.
Wow, that's impressive. I did notice the expression on that little cow's face throughout,
Huh?
and I also was wondering, in some, it looks like they're capturing stars, maybe, or picking up parts of the moon, or
Yep.
so. So there was other questions about what are they going to do with that?
Yeah. So in the story, they're bored. Their life is very predictable. And so at nighttime, she cries adventure. And so she goes off into space. And then the cow feels a little sick, or his tummy feels upset. And he realizes he's hungry. So they get cheese from the moon, naturally.
I thought it was cheese, but I didn't want to assume.
Cheese. And then they needed a little fun. And so they fly around Saturn. And then they're a little thirsty, so they get milk from the Milky Way. So that's them gathering their milk into a cup. And that scene is actually why the cow needed a backpack for the whole thing, because where would you get a cup in space unless you brought it with you? So
good thinking. Well, it's fantastic. You talk about the Prairie Sky in your artist statement, and I'm wondering, how has the prairie landscape influenced your work?
oh, so much. Like I can just lie outside and watch the clouds develop. And so because this one was all night skies, that's why there's a lot of movement there. Because like if you sit outside and watch the clouds, and everything moves so quickly, and the colors are just so much more than we can paint. Like I grew up in the country. I live in the country now. And so just watching it, I'm like, you could paint this, but it wouldn't seem real because it's just so fantastical. It's just amazing. So yeah, so it's definitely, and all of that movement, and like living on the prairie and the winds, and that's a lot of the movement that's in my work as well. It's very prairie influenced. Yeah.
Do you have other paintings that you're working on as well that are similar, or like, I'm wondering how big these are?
Yeah, these are all done 10 by 10 inches.
Okay.
So not too big. I've created them that size so that they fit nicely into a frame to put in the exhibit that's going to be going up in September. So they were designed with that outcome in mind, so that it would be simple to frame.
Right.
Yeah.
And will you have the full story, each of the panels, or will it just be the ones that are on the website?
It'll be different ones from the website, and I'm gonna see how the summer goes. I may even start another story, because like Molly already had a whole story, with other characters that I wrote when I was in college for my publication design class. And so like Molly has existed before any of my kids. So she definitely is my inner child. And then has been influenced and I think made a lot more, had given a lot more dimension being a mom and watching my kids and raising them. So already, like, because this whole story was based off of kicking off covers, my daughter's like, well, mom, in the next book, Mr. Cow needs to do this, and in the next one. And so like between her and I've like read it to my niece and nephews and showed them the pictures through the process. And so everybody's giving me ideas of where they need to go. So the September exhibit could very well have some of their next adventure in it.
That's exciting that the adventure
Yeah.
continues and keeps going.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you talk a little bit about your mentorship that you've had with Brenna George and what kinds of things that you've taken away from that mentorship?
Sure. So in the mentorship, I found out about it like so last minute. Like I saw an email the day before the thing was due. So I'm like, well, I got nothing to lose. So I shot it off and I was just so like amazed and honored that I was chosen to be a part of this. And so because yeah, we have a large family, I have other jobs, there's always lots going on. And as a graphic designer, like everything is done for clients for a purpose and that kind of stuff, right? So through the mentorship, Brenna has just really encouraged me, like, focus on one thing, just do one thing. And I'm like, but I love my painting and I love my illustration. You can't choose a favorite child. She's like, one thing. Just so yeah, so it was just before Christmas that I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to do illustration. And so that's kind of, and then it turned into a whole book, and I would not have written the book out if I hadn't had this time that was like set aside to really invest in my art practice. And like she's helped a lot with just upping my technique with some things too, and showing me some different techniques with watercolors, and encouraging me to buy better supplies. She's like, you're a professional artist, stop buying things at the dollar store. So
Advice.
yeah, and actually I was honored to receive a Make and Grow grant through MAWA as well. And so that money all went to professional art supplies and like just the pigments. And so the depth that you see in those illustrations in the skies, it's just like I'm using quality supplies for probably the first time ever. And because teaching classes, I keep a lot of student level stuff, and that's what I work with because it's what's here. But now I have my artist stuff, and yeah, so it's within the mentorship and just the promotion, like how to promote ourselves as artists, and just even on like giving myself the title of artist and being able to say, I am an artist and this is my art practice and this is time that's set aside for this. So the professional side of it. And also the encouragement. This group has been amazing, and we're like chatting in our group and like cheering each other on. And so, yeah, it's just lots of levels, so many things. So great.
Well, I'm so glad to hear. Mentorship is, and the mentorship is not over yet, so you still have some time
Right.
together. And it seems like your group has really come together and wants to continue sort of as a group to be supportive of each other, which is really wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. And if you look at our different galleries there that we have there, our work is so different, and
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's amazing. And so just like seeing the commonalities that we have, and even insecurities that we have about our work, and just being able to encourage us, yeah, it's been really cool.
And are we looking at your studio right now?
You're looking at my illustration space. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my design space on the other side. I have my illustration space here, and I have a whole lot of shelves in between.
I was wondering how you work in do you have a studio space separate from your home, or is it part of your home, or?
Yeah, so this is my little studio, so I'm able to kind of keep all of my creative mess in here, because when I'm like deeply involved in something, it's everywhere.
That's nice. You have it separate. You can go
Yeah,
make a mess,
yeah,
leave.
exactly. So yeah, this is so I have a drafting table and my watercolors and just postcards from traveling that inspire me and pictures my kids draw, stuff like that. So yeah.
Do you have other things that inspire you? Talking about inspiration, do you have other things that inspire you to make work? Or do you
Um,
look to other artists for inspiration?
well, I'm really obsessed with Van Gogh, and I know that's pretty basic, but like, yeah, I just the movement in his stuff is really what gets me. I was able to go to New York with friends a few years ago, and we were touring the Met, and I got to see his work for the first time, like up close, and see the texture and the movement. And I'm standing there in front of irises, which I've never connected with before. And my friend's like, "Hey, where do you want to go?" And I look at her and I've like tears streaming down my face. And she's like, "Do you need a moment?" I'm like, "I didn't expect this. I have no connection to this painting, but it was just like the movement just got me in that moment." And so, yeah, like there's a lot of artists, and then like even just like following different hashtags on Instagram and seeing artists work and how they promote, but like light and color and movement, like especially really vibrant color. I love really saturated. There's an artist, of course, because we're filming, I can't remember his name from the East Coast, but he has this like phenomenal way of painting light in this kind of abstract style. And I really love his work. I wish I could remember his name right now. But yeah, so yeah, those are the places I draw from.
Nice. Um, you mentioned in your bio that you enjoy teaching. And what do you enjoy most about teaching?
I love how a child can draw a stick figure and then just pronounce themselves. I'm really good at drawing. Like, I'm an artist, and it's not product based. It's all about how they feel and how they're exploring. And I especially love teaching little ones because they just have none of those inhibitions. Or yeah, and like you usually see around like middle year students, there's the insecurities, and then by high school, if they've received one negative comment from a teacher, one sideways glance, one what is it or whatever, and it's like those little things shut it off. And so, and then when you talk to adults, they're like, "Oh, I can't draw a stick figure." And then usually it's something that was said to them right around those middle years too, that just so I love teaching art because I see that confidence in little ones, and I see that freedom where they're just like willing to explore and just, pronounce to the world how talented they are. Because grandma put it on the fridge, and that's a pretty big deal.
First
um,
exhibition.
yeah, exactly. And so yeah, I love seeing that and nurturing that, and then being able to like tell students like we are all students, we are always learning, and when something doesn't work, we've learned something that doesn't work, and we keep going, and then just to like help feed into them. And I love being able to be that voice. Mhm.
Sounds very joyful too.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, and you talked about the next project. I'm wondering, can you talk about the process of making the work into a book? Because you said you're self-publishing. How is that process, or what are you doing to make that happen?
Yeah. So I kind of start with just my spark, whatever that little idea is. My daughter's kind of pushing for an underwater adventure next, so it might move in that direction. And so yeah, the whole book is written in rhyme because I was obsessed with Dr. Seuss, and yeah, all those rhyming and like, and a lot of the writing too is just kind of that silly nonsense. I like it to have like a cadence to it, a nice rhythm. So yeah, just the idea, and then finding how it fits into that rhyme and moves along. And then again, like my artist and designer brain are always working to like make sure it's the right number of pages for a publication and make sure I'm staying within that. So I love it because I can engage all those different parts of creativity and of my creative process to pull them all together into one project. So yeah, write it out. I shoot it off to a few people who I trust with my roughest work, and yeah, boil it down. Like sometimes it was too long and too many pages, so trim it down. And yeah, I've been working with some really great editors too, some friends of mine who've been willing to help out. And that's been a really great process too, like where my mentorship group has helped edit a lot of the visual stuff. And then I have these writers who are working with me and just like polishing up the rough edges and yeah, creating my best work it can be.
And then, so when you go to publish, are you publishing, like, is it an online, like, is it a print on demand, or do you send it away for hard copies? Like, how is that?
Yeah, so I'm working with a Canadian self-publishing company. I researched the top ones that are in Canada, and one of them gave me a bit more creative control where I can send them the print ready files, because like I said, this is my baby. I'm pretty protective of it. So yeah, they've given me the option of complete creative control, sending those files print ready. So I did an Indiegogo campaign, and I put it out there, friends, family, clients, and I raised almost all the money that I need to get it out there. And I'm printing a certain number of copies. With the campaign that I ran, I have like hardcover copies as kind of incentives for my funders. So there's going to be a limited run of those. And then I'm going to do about, I don't know, 500 to 1,000 printed copies that I'm getting, because I want to get them out to certain like local stores and that, because we have a really great community here. I want to do some library talks once we can talk to people in person.
Nice.
I have a full list of like activities to go with it, because as a teacher, I like to have like creative activities for kids to go with it, and even for adults to explore the story and kind of tap into their inner child. So yeah, and then there is going to be a print on demand. So the publishing company that I'm working with handles a lot of that stuff and kind of walks me through, because the publication world is its own thing that I don't know. So I have a really great salesperson that I'm working with who's like walking me through that and helping me figure out what I need and what I don't out of it. So
Wow.
Yeah,
it's a bit intense.
These past few months have been a lot of growth and a lot of learning.
Wow. Yeah. And then you'll know for the next one. And
yes, exactly.
I'm wondering, was there anything else that you would like the viewers to know about your work in this exhibition, or anything else you'd want to mention that we haven't talked about?
I don't know. I just hope people will not just see, little kids' pictures, and really just take the time to walk through and explore it. I think I wrote in, I'm not sure if it's included in the write-ups there, but that we need adventure right now. We need to be able to find adventure that's just here and create our own adventure. And I hope that people can take that adventure with Molly and her Mr. Cow, and also in their own lives, and just be encouraged to find the whimsy.
Oh, well, that's wonderful. I think there is a nice little escape into those beautiful pictures and the journey that is fun and fanciful and
barefoot and wild.
Yeah. And how nice it would be to be a child again, in a way. Yeah. But even just for a moment through those works. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for talking with me, and best of luck with the exhibition. I know that it's going up in person in September in Brandon. Yeah. And then touring to some other places.
Yeah.
So exciting.
Pretty exciting.
Maybe I can see it one day in person, which would be lovely.
Yeah.
I'll say goodbye.
Thanks so much, Dana. It was great to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
Okay.
Bye.